Welcome back, everyone. Here's a panel hosted by James Bore. Take it away.
Thank you. Last minute panel. So sadly, I'm sitting in a lovely sunny garden and having to prop up my studio on a case of beer, which is a shame for everyone. But let's go off with a quick round of introductions. So everyone on the panel was recently a rookie. They may sometimes still think of themselves as rookies. They are wrong. They've had that experience. They're now experienced professionals. Let's start with Elizabeth. Do you want to kick off and tell everyone who you are and just where you started out on this whole journey?
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth. I'm currently a security analyst at Quorum Cyber. And 2 years ago, I started my journey into InfoSec. Previously in my life, I've worked in many different roles, nothing related to InfoSec. I was an admin, I was an optical assistant, customer service advisor. So it's still baby steps for me, but I'm already 2 years into my journey.
And Juan, we'll go alphabetical. So you're next.
I'm Juan. I worked in hospitality for a very long time. Had lots to do there with compliance and the likes of that. And now working as a systems engineer in the healthcare industry. Very different pace, but also very interesting, and obviously constantly learning and trying to share different experiences with, well, the world really.
And last, Vi, or the IPv6 wizard, depending on which you prefer.
Whichever. So I'm Vi, and I'm a year and a half now into my PhD at the University of Glasgow studying IPv6. So, yeah.
Okay, and some of the audience may not know this, but of course, you all had your first speaking experience, public speaking experience. When was that? A few months ago, somewhere in the mid-lockdown haze. So you've been through what every single speaker at this conference is going through. So going backwards this time, we'll start with Vi. What's your tip for them, the few who are left to speak, and also anyone else considering doing this?
I think just have confidence in your topic, you know? Like the reason that you've been selected to give a talk is because you have a unique perspective on whatever you're covering. So yeah, I would say like, just talk honestly. You know, what do you actually think about this? Don't be like, sorry, total disorganized, but thinking like, just have confidence in presenting your topic, you know, it will go absolutely fine.
And Juan?
I'm going to pick up on where Vi mentioned, and definitely if you have something that you've experienced and you thought, hey, that's interesting, you should absolutely try and present it. It can be something as simple as fireside chat, or if you have a bigger topic, absolutely apply for a conference. There's lots of things that are very welcoming and will provide support. BeerCon, we had some incredible mentors. I know there were some incredible mentors working here for Digital Overdose. And these people will help you, you know, prepare your slides. They won't write your slides for you, but they will definitely help you be able to practice it once or twice, help you give feedback on, you know, maybe pacing, and definitely help you get rid of those first time presenting nerves.
Elizabeth?
I think that from a rookie perspective, the biggest fear that I have anytime I'm speaking about something is that someone will tell me, oh, like you're telling complete nonsense, or you haven't covered the entire topic. Just remember that what you're talking about is your journey and is your own experience. So you don't have to know everything. And sharing through conferences like that is really helpful for other people who might not be familiar with the subject. So don't be scared of questions. And if it's something that you don't know, you can always tell that's a very interesting topic, or that's a very interesting perspective. It's worth exploring maybe in a next talk. But yeah, don't be afraid to be challenged. it's very good to share your own experience and share your knowledge.
I think to pick up on what you were saying, Elizabeth, that was kind of the entire reason why I wanted to present my topic. Was I was kind of hoping somebody would say, no, there's this way easier way to do it that you don't know about. And sadly, nobody did. So I think, yeah, just sort of having more unique perspectives, like it's good for potential collaboration, because I've met so many people that have helped me out with like potential research directions. So yeah, I think networking was something that like was the main thing that I got out of presenting at a conference. Definitely recommend it.
I just want to pick up on something there, because obviously you've all been doing things since your first talk. And I know the community around that first talk and since has been extremely supportive, which is great. I've found over the years that the hardest thing to find is challenge and constructive criticism. People are very unwilling to be negative. Have you started to encounter that, or is it something where you're not worried about it at the moment? Have you had useful criticism that tells you how to improve? How's that been going for you since that first time? Just open to the floor.
So for me, as I said, unfortunately, nobody's come forward and said, oh, there's this one command that you can do to scan all of IPv6 or whatever. You know, that's not happened, sadly. But I think, for example, like I've been talking to Juan about like writing a possible scenario for secure by scenario to do with my research. It's like, okay, well, if we can get people to sort of play and see how they would respond to that, that's quite interesting information in itself and might give me some more directions to look in. So for me, I've not actually had a problem getting constructive criticism, like just collaborating with people and talking with them. That sparks off ideas, you know, having a sounding board. So I'd say I personally haven't been doing much to sort of actively seek criticism, because I'm still sort of designing the experiments that still need to run them. But I think, yeah, there's been quite a lot of opportunities that have just come up, you know, as I've been talking to people. Yeah. So I think if I actively like went and looked for feedback, people would be very willing to give it. Especially if I said to them, look, don't be nice about this. You know, if there's something wrong with this, tell me, and they will be honest with you.
I feel that because I'm a rookie, I'm the harshest judge for my own work. So anything that I do, I will always think it's just not good enough. I haven't met with like any harsh criticism from other people about what I'm doing, but I always ask for that feedback. Just like we said, it's extremely helpful, especially if you're new to the topic, to get a different approach or a different angle to a problem solving. And conferences like this one is an amazing opportunity to sort of meet other people's viewpoints on different things, or learn about new subjects, new topics. And there's a huge community there, not just Digital Overdose, but there's other conferences there. And from my own perspective, people who are behind those conferences are extremely supportive and welcoming. So sometimes it's just a matter of reaching out to other people and asking for help if you get stuck with something. So yeah, definitely always ask for some constructive feedback on stuff that you do, but also don't be too harsh on yourself, if you know what I mean. Like that's what at least I do. It's always like not good enough for me.
Well, and anything to add to that, or are you just enjoying your beach?
The beach is always nice in the tropics. So I'm no longer working with compliance in that field, so I haven't really been challenged on that level. I have found some rather interesting perspectives where companies require more sensitive or data which is more sensitive than what they currently have in order to get rid of the not so sensitive data. And I've been able to because from BeerCon, I was able to then network with other people who were far more specialized in this. And they do provide a lot of insights. Again, not necessarily on my work, but definitely still providing new perspectives to why things might be done. I do regularly share Elizabeth's talk with my university classmates, because most of them are in the UK. Obviously, this was open university, so lots of people who will be starting out or who might be finishing off. and lots of people who are in this situation because they're currently working and say, you do have this solution which exists, and people are always like, oh, we didn't know about this, and this is precisely why having people who step up and say, hey, this was my experience, is so important, because there's so many people who don't know about it and who could take advantage of those situations, get that work experience, and get that academic experience as well.
I just want to add that I've also shared your talk with people, Elizabeth. So undergrads I've been teaching in labs, I've been saying like, hey, take a look at this. You don't need to know everything about computing to get started in InfoSec. This is an example path. So it's been really helpful for them, sort of like gaining confidence about like, okay, yeah, you can do this.
There's been a lot said about the supportive community with BeerCon 2, and obviously I've seen the community with Digital Overdose. I've also seen other rookie cons where it seems to be more a case of just come along and give your first talk and that's it. How important is it to have mentoring and/or an actual community of people who know they're all speaking and know they're all going through that same experience?
I think that's the most important thing in the world, at least from my perspective, to have good mentoring to guide you through and to challenge you as well in a way, so you can step out of your comfort zone and try new things, or learn new things. My journey in InfoSec didn't start with my current company, and in the previous company that I worked for, which was really amazing and really friendly, and everyone was absolutely lovely. But the problem was there wasn't enough mentoring from my perspective. There wasn't enough people sacrificing time to sit down with me and explain stuff to me. And I mean, there is a lot of resources. You have all the different docs and all the different trainings, but there's a huge difference between doing a course and sitting down with someone where you can ask questions to the point and get answers for the questions that you have, like, very specific questions. So I think that joining conferences like this and taking advantage of the mentors who are there and are absolutely willing to sit down with you to answer any questions, whether they seem silly or whether they seem really serious, is a huge thing, and everybody should use that to their own advantage. That's my own experience.
I think the BeerCon community came up because the beer farmers, they said, okay, here's the speakers, here's 4 mentors, figure it out between yourselves. And so the speakers really did get together to try to build each other up, which I think certainly helps a lot to work, because you obviously don't have one mentor each, you have limited resources. And so this means that you also help each other build up on your talks. You get the additional eyes, as it were, on what's on the end product. I did go through a different conference which had a very different style. The rookies were assigned one mentor, and so while you do have a much more focused perhaps mentorship, you do miss out on all the other speakers who are going to be providing a different perspective, because they might come from that field, they might know about some elements that you might not have thought about. As you mentioned before, this constructive criticism that would be coming directly before you're giving your talk, maybe giving some more thought process to what you're going to be sharing on the day.
I feel like the fact that we had a sort of session completely independently of the conference organisers with the mentors, like all of the people who would be speaking, it sort of felt like we were in sort of like seminar or like lecture together. So it kind of almost felt like you were bonding as a class, kind of, is how I felt about it. And I appreciate that's probably because I am a student and have been for the past 6 years. So I will think of it in those terms. But yeah, I feel like for me, it's a bit of a strange one. Working in research, I've got like plenty of contacts who work in academia and networks research, which is my background. So I feel like having the opportunity to connect with people that actually work in industry and do all this, practical stuff day to day, I felt like, okay, it would be amazing to finally sort of get to talk to them and hear their perspectives on the work. So yeah, I think for me, sort of the community the community of people I've met through BeerCon has been absolutely invaluable. You know, I've learned so much from following them on Twitter, talking to them just, you know, in sort of little evening chats that we have sometimes about working in InfoSec. I think for me, talking at BeerCon was the first time I sort of felt like I kind of belonged in an InfoSec community. Before then, I sort of felt like, oh, well, I just do networks. You know, that's not really InfoSec, is it? And I've been proven so wrong. Like by speaking at BeerCon, people have said, you know, like InfoSec is a very broad church. You belong here, and here's all these supportive people that are, you know, willing to help if you have any questions. So it's been great. Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who are very open and willing to mentor and very open and welcoming. And one of the hardest things seems to be getting people to ask for help, getting people to ask to sit down. So what advice do you have for people who want to be mentors, who want help with these things, to encourage people to talk to them? I'm also just going to add in that if the audience have any questions, now's probably the time to throw it in, because by the time this one is answered, they'll have made their way through the delay and hopefully into here where Nicholas will ask them of us.
Can you repeat that question, James?
What's your advice for people who want to mentor, who want to help, to get people to ask them to give that time? Because I've spoken to a lot of people who do have something to give and want to, but they never get asked about it, or they rarely get asked about it except through formal schemes.
So Tanya Yanka does the Mentoring Monday. And so where they try to put people together within their fields, people looking for mentorship and people who wish to mentor, which is an existing solution. Definitely participating in the communities when people ask for questions, being able to provide insights does help. But in the end, it is a bit of an active participation from both sides, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree in that. Sorry,
No, not at all.
That it takes both sides to be active for the mentoring to take place, and I think that from my perspective, it's sometimes intimidating if there's someone who has loads and loads of experience to reach out and ask questions, because you're thinking they'll just think it's something completely silly or stupid or something obvious. So maybe for people who are rookies and are looking for mentors, don't be afraid to ask any questions, because they're not silly. There's no such thing as a silly question. And very often it's so much better to ask a question than do something blindly or ignore something. So definitely have that courage. And the worst thing that could happen if you ask someone for help is that they could say no, but that's the worst thing that could happen. You won't be beat with a stick or anything like that for asking questions or reaching out. And for people who are maybe looking to mentor but don't have people reaching out, I think that getting involved in conferences like this is an amazing opportunity to find those people who want to be mentored, who are just starting their journeys. Rookie conferences like this or the BeerCon one, and there's a lot of people there who are maybe taking their first steps and are looking for someone who would guide them or tell them what to learn next or what to look at. So there's definitely potential. There's people there who are looking for mentors, but maybe they're just too shy to ask or too scared to look.
I would totally second what Elizabeth said about asking questions. Like, I have lost any shame about asking questions. I just go and tweet someone, I message them, you know, like, on the whole, yeah, people have been really good. You know, I've got like so much information that I've learned from people just through doing that. As for mentoring, I don't know too much about that. Like, I'll look into the Mentoring Mondays thing that Juan talked about. I think partially because outside of my niche of like IPv6 and IPv6 scanning, I would consider myself a rookie at a lot of other topics in InfoSec. So for me, I'm personally looking for peers I can sort of learn with, or groups or Discord servers and things, people to follow on Twitter. And I think, okay, that's an interesting blog post, I'll go and read that. So for me, I'm not at a stage where I seek to be a mentor at the moment. But I'm finding peer communities quite helpful, where people sort of learn together as newbies.
Thank you. And hopefully Nicholas is in the room somewhere hidden away. I can't see him because of the screen layout I've got, with any questions that have come in. If he's not there, I'm just going to look stupid.
He's not there, and I can't see any questions coming in.
Right, thank you.
I will add, however, to your previous question, if you do have, or if you are a mentor and you do have someone that you're mentoring, it's very important to be able to make yourself relatable. That's to say, you've been there before, because when they make a mistake, especially if you're in the same company, you also want to make sure that they're willing to come and say, hey, I messed up, can you help me out? And not try to hide it under the rug. So being able to say, you know, like, this is a mistake I made when I was starting out, or, you know, being able to share from experience, because that's also a great way of learning, either personally or from transmitting your past experiences.
Always try to learn from someone else's mistakes if you can. Yeah, and that seems to be a thing, and there is almost an issue in InfoSec and in cybersecurity where people who've got very advanced in their careers can sometimes act as if they're perfect, act as if they've never made any of the mistakes, and they just emerge full formed from, I don't know, an oyster on the sea with all of this knowledge. So how important is it, and one, you've basically answered this, but I'd like to ask Vi and Elizabeth as well, how important is it to know and have people saying, yes, I've made the same mistakes, I've tripped up on the same things, I've had the same challenges, I've been scared of asking what I thought were stupid questions. How much of a difference does that make as compared to the more professorial, perhaps, method where it's, I've got all of the answers and that's it?
It's interesting you mentioned professorial there, because like my favorite lectures I've ever had at university were ones where people say, oh, hey, I did this, I made this big mistake, this happened, it was terrible, don't do that. You know, people that sort of made no bones about the fact, like, the technologies that we're working with are broken, you know, they're insecure, they're not the shiny image that you often get presented in sort of beginners lectures. So for me, I think having a sort of honest discussion about, like, these were the mistakes I made was very important for me when I was an undergrad, like just gaining confidence. So when I started my computing science degree, I'd written like one Python script, that was it. I didn't really know anything. So that really helped with building my confidence, people sharing their mistakes and saying like, okay, well, maybe try this, or this is what helped me remember this concept. So I think as I go through learning more and more concepts in InfoSec, like for example, at the moment I'm starting on Try Hack Me, because I don't know anything about application testing or cracking boxes or anything, so that's my new thing. I think it'll be the same process. Like, I enjoy reading people's write-ups where they've said, all right, so, you know, this tripped me up, this is how I fixed it. It's like, right, okay, I remember that because there was an example attached to it. I try to do the same thing when I'm teaching people in labs, because you quite often, particularly with people learning C, for some reason, you get people sort of cowering in the corner going, oh, I don't understand any of this. And they just don't want to ask you because they think you'll go, oh, why don't you understand this? It's simple. So I usually open up with, you know, right, confession, for the first 3 weeks of this course, I didn't know how malloc worked, or something like that, you know, just to get them to open up. And, you know, by the time we're finished teaching the end of the 10 weeks, they're totally fine with talking about things, yeah. So for me personally, yeah, sort of case studies, I guess you could call them, are quite important.
From my perspective, having this image of being perfect and not having any mistakes on your account or any things that you regret makes new people like myself have this huge imposter syndrome where you feel, I'm just not good enough for this, or like, why am I doing this? There's so amazing people that just know everything and never ever had any problems. So I think this culture of openly talking about your mistakes and problems that you encountered just gives more confidence to the new people stepping into cybersec. In my current role, I am at the moment training new starts to be security analysts, and I openly talk about, yeah, I've done this so many times. I've not looked at this, or I forgot about this, or you can do this mistake or that mistake. And I think that creates awareness of what you can possibly do wrong. So you're talking about possible repercussions and effects of what could happen if you do this the wrong way. But you're also admitting that everybody goes through this stage where you're learning, and through those mistakes, you're gaining actual experience. So I think it's very crucial in InfoSec to talk about how things can go bad and what could be the possible consequences of things going bad. We can't have a culture of people just talking about how great and wonderful everything is with all the systems perfectly configured. That's not the real world. In the real world, you'll come up with so many different issues, and you have to know how to, with a calm mind, face them and embrace the lesson that you learned from those mistakes. So definitely, it's worth talking about the mistakes and the problems that you encountered and how you handled it for the other people to learn from that.
Thank you. Sorry, you'll have to excuse the butler there popping in with a drink. I think we're coming to the end, but I just want to ask a final particular question. For any rookies watching this, either live or recorded or being told about it, what are your thoughts on them, regardless of where they think they are, just giving a go at something like a rookie conference? Do you need to wait to be ready for it, to wait to be confident enough, or would you suggest just committing to it and seeing what happens? Let's start with Juan.
Apply for the CFP and start working on your slides before they confirm whether you got it or not, because as can happen is you'll be accepted and then you just have 1 week to start working on them.
It's like, I would agree with what Juan said, just apply for the CFP anyway. The decision is theirs to make, whether your talk gets accepted or not. Just, you need to have your hat in the ring. But referring to what I said at the start of this, just be confident in your perspective. Your perspective is unique. Have confidence in it, back it, present it.
From my perspective, is that it's always worth to do the jump in the deep water and challenge yourself. The fact is that before you do the first talk, you will never ever feel that you're ready. It's just after that first talk, when you see how it is and you get the experience and you'll see that no one will shout at you, no one will challenge you. It's all fine. Even if you forget what you meant to say, or even if something doesn't go according to the plan, it's not the end of the world. So once you get that first talk out of the way, then you'll gain more confidence. So just jump in the deep water, even if you feel that you're not ready.
And I think I would have said a perfect note to end on, but I've been told 1 or 2 more minutes. So just quickly then, how have you all been doing since BeerCon? Because it's been a while since some of us spoke. One, I know you've been doing the Secure by Scenario. V and Elizabeth, how have you been doing?
V, do you want to go first?
Stand off.
I've been talking at a few other conferences, talks about my apprenticeship program, because again, I think it's an amazing thing. And I would like to encourage as many people who want to make this transition to consider it or even learn more about it. So it's been great. I've been doing a bit of mentoring for Digital Overdose, more from a perspective of, I'm a rookie, I'm afraid to talk. It's my first talk. I don't know whether someone will challenge me or not. And that's been a great experience to be on their other side and just encourage people and give them, some pep talk and say, you'll do fine. It's an amazing talk. So it's going amazingly. There's lots of things happening. There's my uni course as well. That's happening, with few submissions coming, approaching me very rapidly. So always busy, but in a very positive, evolving way.
So I've been quite quiet. I've done a pre-recorded talk not long after BeerCon, which was fine, but it's not the same as presenting it live. So I think I've got a strong preference for presenting live, which I never thought I would say in a million years. But here we are. So currently I've been writing up experiment plans and trying to design it and trying to negotiate with IT services and whatnot to be able to run this scanner. So I'm a bit quiet at the moment, but as soon as I've got results in, I'm going to try and do a lot more presentations, both hopefully at academic conferences and also definitely a load of like industry workshop type talks. So I'm quite keen to sort of spread the word on this and get industry perspectives about, okay, how would this affect day-to-day operations, for example? So quiet at the moment, but really can't wait to get back into talks. Love public speaking now.
And one, other than the secure by scenario, I've seen you run a few of those excellently. I encourage everyone to get involved, by the way. What have you been up to? You mentioned you're no longer in compliance.
Yeah, so I'm no longer in compliance, but that's obviously just on the professional side of things. After BeerCon, I gave another talk on GDPR, where I mentioned some failure strategies, which I'd seen in real life, and explaining how these strategies led to non-compliance. And I'm now going to be giving a talk next week at IsolationCon on reverse engineering intelligence gathering process from when a nice Irish fellow found me of a really dodgy, blurry picture of the lake.
Look forward to that one. Right. I think that does actually bring us to the end. I've not had another pop-up saying a few more minutes. So thank you all for being willing to jump in and cover this panel. Thank you all for the answers. And hopefully I'll get a chance to speak to you all again soon.
Likewise.
Likewise. Thanks for having us.
Do we have